I see this beautiful painting, and it's very unique and in detail. So just tell me a little bit about what, when you think about art as history, there were many painters that came before us, before you.
Yeah.
Who influenced you? Because you have a different technique, different perspective. Mm-hmm. How did you come to develop your character of art?
I studied the Impressionists primarily. I would stare at the brushstrokes and the colors and the highlights, and but when I started painting, because I loved that style so much, I just assumed that that would be how I would paint as well. But I actually really walk the line between realism and impressionism. Some of my paintings kind of fall farther on one side than the other, but it was never my goal to paint like photorealistic, which is where a lot of my paintings fall. And I don't really know why. It's what makes sense to me.
Yeah.
When I pick up a brush and I paint from a reference photo, but my goal isn't to copy the photo, but to honor that space, honor that landscape as though I were standing there, because I'm trying to invite that feeling, that experience into the painting, so that if you're standing looking at the painting, it evokes those same feelings or presence.
I can feel that. I can feel that when I look at your art. Well, Maile, one of the things, we got a chance to see some of your other artwork, mm-hmm. and we were in Edmonds when we first met you, and I remember you sharing art of you mentioned the George Floyd mm-hmm.
situation
and how that impacted you.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me a little bit more about that, because I know that you've done some artwork that kind of focused on justice and naming those individuals who have been lost as a result of gun violence and so forth.
When I first watched the George Floyd video, and quickly became more and more aware of the number of people who've been lost to gun violence and to police violence, I felt really powerless. I felt really hopeless. It felt like no matter how many protests happened, the problem was too large. It was too systemic. I wasn't sure what I could do personally to make any dent in the injustice of any of that. And I turned to art as therapy. I used art therapy for myself by reading through stories of people who had been lost to gun violence and picking up the stories that particularly resonated with me, just in their senseless tragedy, just how preventable they were, and found photos of them and painted their portraits, and spent a lot of time staring into their faces and honoring who they were. And it felt like I was befriending them to a degree. As I look at those portraits, I remember the tragedy. I feel that sorrow, but I also can't help but smile back at them.
Well, thank you for sharing that. Yeah, that's amazing, because in some ways, when you capture the image of a person, it's almost like you're capturing the essence of that person through your painting. So thank you for sharing that. How do you? My favorite quotes, it comes from Fyodor Dostoevsky.
Mm-hmm.
Beauty will save the world. What does that invoke in you when that statement is made? Beauty will save the world.
I like to think of beauty as something that isn't just two-dimensional. It's not just a pretty picture. Beauty, there can be an internal beauty. There can be a relational beauty. Right? It's a value, not a adjective. And so when I think of beauty saving the world, I think of cultivating beauty in our lives in all of those ways. If we are working to heal, we're cultivating beauty internally. Or if we are engaging in nonviolent protesting, mm-hmm, right? Mm-hmm. We're cultivating beauty in our society, right? There's a lot of ways that could look. And I think it's absolutely true. Beauty will save the world if we let it.
Yeah.